I tried an experiment, and the experiment is the right side and the left side. So when we go to the left side, okay, or the past, okay, the past in Sahaja Yoga is the left side. Okay, so when we turn to the left, and dancers do this, so they turn to the left, you turn to the past, and there are forms of dance where you turn to the past, when you turn to the left, and when you turn to the right, you turn to the future. And I actually tried it by moving my head to the right and projecting futuristically, moving to the left, and you become emotional and you can slow down. And when we go into meditation and we are without thought, we become completely unaware of time. Completely unaware of time. We are, in essence, timeless. And I talked about the nature of the computer. When we have all the programs open, we basically, the computer is working very hard. And when we close all the programs, the computer becomes still and becomes at rest, and it resets. It resets into that current time and space, because the computer is located in space, or is it? Because it's connected to the internet, isn't it? And the internet permeates through the ether. And now in Sahaja Yoga we have something called the Shrimati Nirmala Devi University. Okay, it's a university which Shrimati asked to become established, and it permeates through space and time, because I'm conscious of the fact that when I'm talking to Australia, they're 12 hours ahead of us. But are they 12 hours ahead of us, or are they actually on the same time as us? Well, they're at the same time, aren't they? It's just that the way the earth is turning, it's just the way the sun is striking the earth at that particular time that creates day. In Australia at the moment, it's now 11:22, so I'm aware it's either 11:22 in the morning or it's 11 hours, I'm never sure, or it's 10:22 in the morning. So the Australians are waking up and they're communicating, and I'm staying up to talk to them. And I'm also talking to my girlfriend in Indonesia at the same time, and she is 6 hours ahead. So she's actually very early in the morning, and actually what she's doing now is she's doing her namas, which is surrendering to God. Okay, so I was explaining to her that we are surrendering to God in Sahaja Yoga, but instead of doing it 5 times a day, which is a good practice, we do it all the time. We do it all the time. And when we're thoughtless, we're surrendering all the time. We're surrendering our thoughts, we're surrendering our desires, we're surrendering our actions, because we're becoming completely still. We're becoming completely passive. And when we become completely passive, we can observe everything. We can see everything happening around us. So as we become completely still, we start to observe every single thing. We observe the smallest ant crawling across the carpet. And I had one of those this morning. I had to shoo it out the door. And we can also observe the wind and the birds singing. Well, not this time, but they'll be singing in Australia, won't they? And they'll be singing where my girlfriend is, in Indonesia, in Java. They'll be singing there. And they'll be singing here soon. Won't be long before the sun comes up. And actually in the northern hemisphere, as we are further north, I've observed this in Scotland too, on the north of Scotland, at the top of a mountain, we can observe the sun. And obviously if you go to Scandinavia, we can observe the sun all the time in our summer. And obviously in the winter, it becomes very dark down in Antarctica. So the light itself becomes relative to the observer. And so that's the fundamental question, isn't it? Is light relative to the observer? And I'm aware that scientists like to label things dark. And if you consider that if you label something dark, it's unobservable, does it mean that by calling it dark energy, dark matter, that you're not going to observe it? Now, I contend that physicists should call not dark energy and dark matter, but light energy and light matter. And does that give us a clue to the creation of the universe, which happened 13.7 billion years ago, according to science and according to the projection backwards, based on the speed of light and the outer limits of the universe, the observable universe that we live in. And our solar system at 4.5 billion years old is created from stardust. And we are but stardust, and all the higher elements in our body above iron were all created in the cosmic inferno of supernova, which are dying superstars which blow up. And the actual forces are such that they fuse together the elements and create the higher elements, all the higher metals and stuff that exist within us are all created by that. So we are stardust. And without that accumulation, that gravity, that attraction of matter to itself, we wouldn't exist as human beings. Life wouldn't have started. So life only started in this universe because of the light energy. And we say light and dark. We contend that light is good and dark is negative, and that dark forces and night forces are associated with evil and with good. And we should always look to the light. Okay, we shouldn't look to the dark. Why would we want to look to the dark? And so many people do. They look to the dark. And if you look to the dark, that is where your attention goes. That is where you are. If you look to the light, you will be looking to the future, looking to the present, and you will be surrounded by light. And God said, let there be light, didn't he, in the beginning? So we're talking about the fundamental tenets of the universe here. We're talking about the moment of creation. Let there be light. And on the seventh day he rested. Well, we know as yogis we have 7 chakras within us. And so each chakra represents a stage of human evolution from the basic evolution of the fundamental organism. All it had to do was to reproduce, and it had to actually eliminate waste. And then obviously it goes up through various stages: creativity, creation, and then satisfaction and food and money and shelter and heart and higher things of the heart. And then Vishuddhi chakra here, which is to do with communication and telecommunications and our interaction with the world, and the fact that when man stood up and became Homo erectus, it allowed the brain to develop. The brain then controlled the voice and created speech, and the vocal folds then became speech, and we started to communicate with our fellow man. And that we know as well that some time ago, at least five species of human, or homo meaning man, existed together on this planet. But the Homo sapien, thinking man, became the dominant species and spread around the planet. And it also, we know roughly where they went, because we can trace the mitochondrial DNA in women and the Y chromosome in man, and we can see where they moved around the planet. And where I'm going to is almost like the spinal column, where it goes down into Australia, which is what we consider to be the base chakra, the basic place where man was, early man, aborigines existed, and they're supposed to have migrated backwards and forwards into Asia, all from Africa originally, and that we come from Africa. So Africans are our big brothers. So you can't afford to be Black Lives Matter, don't they? Because they're our big brothers. So those are my conjectures for today, that science and language and religion are all totally connected. They're not divisible. And that we as a human species are not divisible. And the animals and the plants and the flora and the fauna and the space and the time and the very fabric of our being is just observation, just energy. And with that revelation, what can we do with our imaginations? What can we shape with our ideas? What can we shape with our philosophies? And where do you want to turn it? Turn it towards dark or towards light? I prefer the light.